Brilliance Audio presents In Another Place, With and Without My Father, Norman Mailer, by Susan Mailer, performed by Elizabeth Wiley. Suppose a painter sees a path through a field sown with poppies and paints it. At one end of the chain of events is the field of poppies. At the other, a canvas with pigment disposed on its surface. We can recognize that the latter represents the former, so I shall suppose that despite differences between a field of poppies and a piece of canvas, despite the transformation that the artist has effected, something has remained unaltered, and on this something recognition depends. Wilfred Bion, Transformations. Part 1. Chapter 1. The Butterfly Effect. My earliest memory is in my belly. While I was growing up, I loved to look at our family albums. Among the many photos was a small, square, black-and-white image of me at not quite 2 years old with my mother. Every time I saw it, I got a fluttering butterflies in my belly sensation, which made me turn the page as fast as I could. Sometimes I'd even skip that page, anxiously trying to avoid the butterfly effect. Mom left Dad when I was 18 months old. That same day, my mother met Salvador, a tall, handsome Mexican, and 3 weeks later they left New York City on a road trip to Mexico. Norman, my father, now free to pursue his bohemian writer's dream, rented a loft on the Lower East Side and moved in with his new lover, Adele. And I was left with Dad's mother, Grandma Fanny, who took me to live with her and Grandpa in Brooklyn Heights. In the early summer, we went to Long Branch and stayed with her sister, my great-aunt Jenny, in her large white house with green shutters. The forsythia and azalea bushes colored the large garden, while its big trees protected us from the sun. We often went to the beach, which was only a few blocks away. It was quiet and pleasant there. I can half remember settling into a comfortable routine with my grandparents. I know Grandpa arrived every weekend after closing the office. I suppose my father must have made an appearance once in a while. 3 months later, on a hot day in mid-July, Mom returned to fetch me. Grandma always said she'd hoped my mother would change her mind. Perhaps she wouldn't like Mexico after all, or maybe she would break up with Salvador. But none of that happened. My mother had not only fallen in love with the country, she was definitely in love with Salvador. She was moving to Mexico and taking me with her. Grandma was very upset things turned out this way. She'd pleaded with Mom to stay in the city, even offered to take care of me while Bea went to graduate school. She had cajoled and pressured her son, my father, to prevent my departure, but nothing had worked, and now my mother was about to arrive and pick me up. Grandma sat me next to her on the sofa of her sister's living room and hugged me tightly. She told me, "Mommy is coming soon, and you will be leaving with her." Thinking back on that day, she remembered I didn't seem to react much, only picked up my doll and wandered out of the room and into the garden. Soon a car drove up and parked on the street. Mom stepped out and began making her way to the front door, but stopped when she saw me pushing my doll carriage across the lawn. "Susie? Susie, dear," she called to me. I looked up and said, "Mommy?" She rushed to my side, picked me up, and hugged me. Many years later, I asked my mother about that day. Mom, who was always so precise about most things in her life, was surprisingly vague about the details. She made an effort, though, shifted in her seat and closed her eyes to help bring that afternoon back. "I was worried you wouldn't know who I was. I'd been away for 3 months, and you were only 1.5 years old. But when you saw me, you immediately said, 'Mommy,' and then I remember you kissed me once on the cheek.